Hi, everybody, and welcome to Ask Alan Anything. This is your host, B. Alan Bourgeois, and you're welcome to send your questions to us about marketing or publishing or anything related to the industry to bourgeoismedia@outlook.com. Again, that's bourgeoismedia@outlook.com. On the edited version of the show, you'll see the links for it, so you'll be able to send us your questions. Excuse me. I apologize for not being on air last week. I was deathly ill, so much that I was in bed for 3 days. But now that I'm back and pretty much healthy again, if not human, I'm back on the show and I'm ready to talk up a storm. Next week, or in the next episode, number 12, we will be talking about the 6 steps to attraction marketing for authors. There's attraction marketing that is designed for online companies and things of those nature. They have a 7-step program. We have taken that and worked with it and massaged it to fit it specifically for authors. So our program is a 6-step program that is designed to help authors fully understand what they need to do in today's marketplace so that they can become more successful. But today we're going to be talking about 2 other subject matters. One is a letter that was published in Publishers Weekly on July 15th. And then another one we'll be talking about the 3 key points that keep indie authors from succeeding. But I want to draw your attention first to the article by Sari Feldman. She's a retiring librarian. She has been on the ALA board for a long time, which is the American Library Association. And she wrote an article in reference to what the big publishing companies are doing and how they're playing with the libraries and squeezing out more money out of them, or holding back giving them first runs of books and stuff like that until after the books have been published and out there for a while. Then they'll give it to them. So there's a lot of aspects to that. And the only reason I wanted to respond was because I as an indie author, if any of you have been out there, a lot of you, I'm sure, have gone to libraries and offered your book and offered to do a reading, at no charge and stuff. And many times you probably got the door slammed in your face, or they politely said, "We will take it and look it over and then get back to you," and they never do. Or they'll say, "Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, get back to you about doing a reading or whatever," and again, they never do. This is based on the attitude from librarians that indie authors are garbage. That's just bottom line. What they write is garbage. Their ability to write is garbage. That they're not true writers or creative writers because they're not with a traditional publishing company. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's the big 5 or small firm or whatever. That attitude did start at an appropriate time, meaning that when the big publishing revolution was going through in the late 1900s or late 1990s and early 2000s, a lot of people rushed to now become authors and get their books out there on the net through Amazon and things of that nature, and really didn't know what they were doing or the process and procedures. And I admit I was one of those. Even though my first book, I had 5 people go through and proofread it and make comments and stuff like that. A lawyer, a teacher, a professor, just an average person. All of them still had errors in them. To this day, that first book I did still has errors in them. So I've taken it off the shelf, and even some after that, because, excuse me, as I grew in my writing career and as a publisher, I realized more and more the critical steps that are necessary to help get a good quality book. The writing, the story plot, all of that is critical, but you've got to follow it up with a good editor, a good proofreader, and someone who's willing to back up, their stuff with saying, "Look, if you find more errors in this from somebody else, I will either correct it or refund you the money." Most editors won't do that. They don't give a shit. They know they've got you over a barrel once they get the money from you, and you're on your own. And too many times, indie authors have run into that problem where there's still a lot of errors in there, and simple errors that the editor or the proofreader didn't correct, and now they have to hire someone else and spend twice as much money to fix those errors. And that's frustrating for the authors, and it gives a bad name for the publishing world in general, okay? Whether it be editors or proofreaders just taking people for their money and then just, well, this is the way I understand English and stuff. And English is a difficult item to fully understand, and a lot of professors don't always understand every aspect of it and stuff, and this is just the way the English language is. But certain basic things have to follow, with spelling and grammar and stuff like that, and if they don't, then everybody loses out. Nonetheless, let's go back to the letters Sarah wrote. So she was angry, at what the publishing companies were doing, holding back new releases, charging more and stuff. And I fully understand what the publishing company was doing, because they spend so much money on the print that they do need to get their money back. I understand that. And it is very cheap to do the ebook and just distribute that and stuff. And yes, they're going to charge more on the ebooks because that's another revenue for them, and they're a big corporation and they want to make their money. So they're going to nickel and dime anybody and everybody to death, including the authors that they're paying royalties to. They'll start coming up, being creative in the accounting so that the authors are actually getting less and they're getting more. So all of this stuff we continue to see, we continue to understand, and that's part of why I've written The Author's Revolution, and leading that aspect is to say enough is enough, and that's got to change. But in the letter I wrote to Publishers Weekly, and also to Sarah, was to point out the fact that librarians, because they continuously treat indie authors like trash, they should not be bitching because what the big 5 publishing companies are doing to them. If they opened up their eyes and actually looked at a lot of the good quality books that indie authors have written and continue to write, and yes, there is some out there that's trash and shouldn't really get published or distributed on a national basis because they are more for family or something of that nature. If they had actually opened their eyes and discovered the good quality stuff, they would have a huge collection available to them, both in paper and ebook. That would be a hell of a lot cheaper than the publishing houses. And by opening their eyes and opening their doors to indie authors, it helps that industry, the indie authors industry, become more successful, become more profitable for the authors, and give them the breathing space they need in order to continue to write and come up with more great stories. Yes, like any other industry, the ones who do it the best are always going to pop up at the top, or the ones that are most outrageous will always pop up at the top because we love that outrageousness, even though the quality is crap. And we've seen that in politics lately. The point is, if librarians stop treating indie authors like trash and start looking at the quality of the work that's out there now, they would increase their ebook collection, their paper collection, etc. And they then could turn around and say, you know what, Big 5, we don't need you. We don't need to be paying your high prices. We have other good quality work available to us that will fill that gap. The clientele for the patrons for the libraries would love all of the new stuff that's out there. So they're going to be happy. The cost factor coming down for the libraries is going to be great because now they can spend more money on better quality or other quality works, which means more quality works that are available to them. And the publishers are going to start waking up and saying, oh, we need to rethink how we're treating readers, how we're treating librarians, how we're treating authors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That was what my letter was about. I don't know if Publishers Weekly will print it. It has been sent out on our membership organization. So you're welcome, if you want to see a copy of it, to email me at bourgeoismedia@outlook.com, and I'll be glad to send it to you. So now the other thing I want to talk about is what I consider to be the 3 points that keep indie authors from succeeding. As I've just talked about the libraries, until they start changing their attitude towards us and what they do, unfortunately, it's going to become harder and harder for us to be able to really get in there and succeed in that arena. Librarians are great, and I love my librarians. I work with a lot of them, and I give as much as I possibly can. One of my nonprofits, Dear Indy and Dear Texas, gets books into libraries and Title I schools at no cost. We want to encourage more reading. We want people to enjoy more of the good quality works that are out there. So we definitely work with the libraries. We have librarians who are judges for our short story contest and for our book contest. So they get to see new works as well, and they get to learn about these authors and stuff like that. So it's a good working relationship, but it's such a small amount of the entire library community that, again, if the whole library community, or at least 90% of it, doesn't flip their attitude towards indie authors and start working with them and start building the collections from them, then they're going to hurt themselves, and authors are going to have a harder time to succeed. Now, it's just a two-way street on that one. There's no way around that one. Okay. The second point is readership. Okay. While we see and know that readerships of books, paper books, has decreased, eBooks have pretty much balanced out, and they're not really increasing much or decreasing much. They're just plateaued. Audiobooks has increased and will continue to probably increase for one simple reason. It's easy to listen to that while you're driving or working or whatever it is, and not have to stop to think about what you're reading. Okay? The negative to that aspect is just that. People who physically sit there and read a book have better cognitive aspects in their brains. They release stress. They think outside the box. They can become more educated. You can't do that with audiobooks in the same concept. Yes, to a little degree, but not to the full degree. And here's why. Your mind is constantly going and not slowing down when you're listening to an audiobook. When you're listening to an audiobook, you're either driving, so that means your mind's watching the road and going through all that process, or if you're at the grocery store, you're thinking about this and that and this, so you're blacking out on what's being said to you in the audiobook. And the same applies, if you're at work or at the gym or anywhere you're listening to an audiobook, readers are not fully getting it. And so while it's a great tool, it's also an expensive tool for both the readers as well as for the authors producing it. But as a whole for the country and for the world and all that aspect, okay, while that allows for people to get outside stimulus, it really doesn't help on the educational mental basics. Again, cognitive working of the brain, the able to focus in and get absorbed in a story so that allows you to relax from the outside world, the ability to learn new things, whether it be a fiction or nonfiction book, and then again being able to think outside the box based on what the story is. As you read more, you start seeing other perspectives, you start understanding other things. Hearing it, yes, you're going to get some of that, but not as direct. Okay, so for authors, they have to really sit down and contemplate, how can we as an organization of able-bodied people change that readership aspect? It's not so much that we need to cut down more trees, to print more books or anything like that. God knows there's ways to recycle the paper and bring the cost down so you don't have to cut the trees. You can use the old existing books that are out there that are being trashed and stuff to regenerate and to create new books. So paper for paper, that can be a win-win situation, especially for the environment. But getting people to sit down and read, again, whether it's paper or ebook, to make sure that their mind is fully focused in, excuse me, and to allow all of those things we've talked about to happen, what as authors can we do to make that happen? With more and more electronics coming out, more and more ability for people to have tons of distractions, that doesn't help. That doesn't relieve the stress. That doesn't calm the mind. That doesn't calm the heart. It doesn't even calm the spirit in that respect. Okay? So that's number two. Finally, the third option, and that is really critical, is the fact of authors. Okay? Majority of authors, excuse me, that I've worked with, and I'm going to say it's pretty much about 90% of the people I've worked with, would really prefer to be in their office, sitting down and writing. That's all they want to focus in on, is writing. However, while we would all love as authors to be able to do that, because that's what brings our joy and our happiness, in today's world, we can't just do that. We shouldn't. just do that. The aspect of, great, I've written a story, I'm going to rush it to press, is wrong. If anything that we've learned from the big publishing worlds is to spread things out. It's usually a 2-year period when an author would come out with one book before the next book is out. Reason for that, it allows the author a period of time to actually write a new book, go through the editing process, the proofreading, the graphic designs, all of that stuff. And that does take time. Excuse me again. As you can see, I'm still not fully functioning. So when you are going through that process and you're spreading it out, then you're also working on your marketing and your promotion of the current book. Okay, you need to at least allow a good solid year of promotion for that so that it builds an audience. So that when your second book, third book, 12th book, 100th book comes out, you're continuously growing upon your success based on how you're marketing your material and promoting it, so that each book, it's easier and easier and easier. Okay? All the big publishing houses spent lots of money up front. If the book did really well, that second book was going to be easier to promote because that first book did so well. And most of the money was spent on that first book. But because they're hurting financially, they're not spending as much money, and they're counting on the authors to be stepping up and doing more and more and more. So that's why sitting in an office and only writing is not reality anymore for authors. Unless you're filthy rich and you can hire publicists, you can hire your proofreaders and all those other people that need to do their jobs to help you succeed, which is just not realistic for indie authors. The majority of them don't have that money available to them. And the few that do waste the money because they don't fully understand what they're doing. Okay? So for those authors, which is a lot of them, the majority of them, okay, who just want to sit on their ass and work on a book, forget it. Get up off your ass and go work. This is a career, okay? You are going to have to do things to make it work, okay? On top of that, I realize majority of the indie authors that are out there work a full-time job. Some even do part-time stuff, whether it be voluntary or just need a part-time job because they're not making enough on the first one. So their time is limited. So it's really critical for them to learn how to market their time and plan things out so that their marketing dollars are spent well, their marketing time is used well, and they are able to promote the book properly over that 1-year period. And that includes pressing the flesh. Pressing the flesh means going out and meeting people, okay? If you're not meeting people, you're not opening up yourself to greater success. Yes, readers love the books. They care more about the character than they do about the author, mostly because they've never met the author. They never interacted. But now, because of the millions of books that are published every single year by the something like 900,000+ authors that are out there, you have to compete. Okay, it is a competitive market. If you're out there and pressing the flesh, just like well, I don't want to use that, that's almost negative, but you're out there and you're meeting people, then you're going to have greater success because people are connecting with you. And we'll go into a lot more detail in episode 12 about that. But right now, for you to succeed, it's just a simple aspect of getting off your ass and working for it. Writing is really 10% of the overall published indie author life. It's a big part, but it's still only 10%. Even if you pushed it to 20, it's still a small percentage. The rest of it is your marketing, okay? The researching of the covers, the researching of the layouts of the books, the researching of how things are worded on back covers and things of that nature, the researching of how to get the book properly published. And no, Amazon is not the proper way. Going to Amazon, you actually cut yourself off from half the world as far as book sales go. And people don't get that. Yes, Amazon is extremely popular place to go. I know that. I'm a Prime member. There are things that I will go and shop on, make it simple and easy because of my busy life. But you have to be wise at how you publish so you don't cut yourself off from the rest of the world that reads. okay? Not all readers buy Amazon or use Amazon eBooks, okay? All of this all comes together, okay? Again, working with the librarians, building the readerships, and encouraging further reading, okay? Not just electronic or audio, but actually physically reading, okay? And then you as an author, those are the three key things that keep authors from succeeding. In the author Ask Alan Anything, episode 12, we will be talking about the 6 steps to better understand that and to better improve upon your marketing skills as well. But that's, in the short term, what we have. Now, also next week, we will be putting out the 6 steps in a white paper. And if you're on our email list, you'll get a notice about it. If you're not on our email list, you're more than welcome to. We'll have that on the bottom of the screen towards the end of the show so that you'll be able to go and log in and get that information, okay? So those were the 2 main topics that I want to talk about. Now, there are a lot of other things going on in the world and stuff, and that never changes. But your success is what we are about, what I'm about, okay? In order for you to succeed, you have to be willing to work, okay? That goes for our membership organizations. We have hundreds of members with us, and we've had well over 1,000 in the last 8 years total with us. Some of them leave because they did not realize they were going to have to do the work. They thought we would do all the work for them, and that's just not the case. If you want to succeed, this is a career. This is a business. And if you don't treat it that way, you're not going to succeed, okay? So that means getting out there, pressing the flesh, meeting people through book festivals, other avenues, whether it be an art fest or a county fair or whatever it is. You have to be able to go out there and do that. You have to be able to meet with people and share what you do. That connection these days is what makes a difference for success. Even if you don't meet people on Facebook, building that communication is part of meeting them. It's part of the success, okay? And just putting things up there that promote your book or promote you or promote what you're doing isn't always successful. For us, as a marketing organization, we do put a lot out there that relates to what we're doing and to the latest events and latest programs and stuff like that. But we even understand that it has to be personal. It has to have that personal communication. That's why we do our authors marketing event every year. And that gives authors a chance to come together, to meet, to talk, to socialize, because that's what's important. That connection makes a world of difference for the readers, for yourself, working with other authors, meeting and learning new options and programs that are out there that will help you grow, okay? Just because you're an author doesn't mean you have to pay thousands of dollars for marketing organizations or programs or whatever. You don't have to do that. You can do it relatively inexpensive, and by that I mean maybe $1,000 max over a period of 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but not $5,000 in the first year or $10,000 in the first year. And I've seen authors do that. They've been lucky enough to have the money, so they do spend it, but their sales are no better than somebody who spends maybe a few $100s each year to do it. You can be smart about it. You have to just plan accordingly. And like I mentioned earlier, the big publishing houses understood how to time things out, spread it out. It became the key aspect for all publishing houses. They all understood that 1 year is about promoting the book, the second year is about writing the new book, and then getting it out there on the third year and starting the routine all over again. But if you don't start working on it bit by bit by bit, when you do book 2 and book 3 and book 4, you still have to work twice as hard because you didn't do it the first time. So you got to go out and find those readers again and again and again because you didn't do it right the first time. Which means because you didn't do it right the first time, you're not doing it right the second, third, or fourth. You may be improving upon it, but you're still not all there because you didn't learn how to properly do it. You didn't learn how to space it out, how to work with certain materials, how to work with certain programs, to help maximize your time, your money, and promotion. Okay? And again, marketing is a standard throughout all different types of industries. It tweaked for each different things. Like I mentioned earlier in episode 12, we will be talking about the 6 steps to attractive marketing for authors versus the 7 steps for traction marketing for all other organizations. So we defined and clarified those 6 steps that are most important for the authors, and that's why there's 6 and not 7. We've worked that for you. If you choose to buy my books, if you choose to participate in our membership organizations, which is open to all authors, regardless if you're traditionally published or self-published, indie, whatever, what you learn from us helps you grow if you apply it. And that is the most important thing I keep saying time and time again. Get up off your ass and work. This is a business. Okay, I promise, no more of that. I think I've stretched that out enough, and we'll go from there. So as a reminder, our We Fiction program, which is a writing contest for authors, is up and running. Readers can submit either a character, a location, a plot twist, make a donation, which helps us raise money for literacy program, which is at Dear Texas I mentioned earlier in the show, where we get books into Title I schools and libraries to help them have more access and more reading materials. I mentioned it in a couple other sessions before, that out of 300 children that are in the poverty level, there may be only 1 book that is appropriately aged for them. Okay? Imagine that. You have 300 children in an auditorium, maybe one of them has a book that's the appropriate age for them. Most of them will not have a book that's appropriate age and won't have a book at all. So getting these books, whether they be indie authors or anybody, to them is critical, because that is our future. Everybody has the ability to get out of the poorhouse, if that's what they're born into, and move up and grow and become somebody special. Okay? But it's up to us as individuals to be able to help that. And readers, since you love reading, giving these ideas, again, the locations, characters, plot twist, and making donations is a win-win all the way around. Because then the author teams will select from what has been suggested by the readers and create a book based on that. Then the readers get to read them and choose which one is the best, and then the authors get a publishing contract and get to grow as an author, because they've been challenged to work with 4 other authors. You can work with 2, 2-man team, but we encourage 4. And all that growth and all the money raised is a win-win for everybody. The readers who put in suggestions and made those donations will also get free copies of the books that they've read, whether it be ebook or paper or both. And if they've happened to be the one that was the top winner for the book, then they would get autographed copies from each of the authors that participate in creating that. And who knows, we might be able to do some other special goodies for them as well and stuff. But it's a great way for authors to finally say, I thought about what if you did this in that plot, put that little twist in. Or, this would be a great location to do a story in. Or I love this building, or I love this business. Let's put it into a story. Oh, a character. I want to be a character. Can I be a character? Those type of things is what the readers get to participate in. Okay? So check it out at wefiction.dearindie.org. That's wefiction.dearindie.org. You'll see a commercial for it at the end of this show. And at the same time, for the authors, don't forget, you can sign up at the same website, but the National Authors Day is coming up in Houston on November 2nd. So we hope you will come and attend. If you can't attend, buy one of the t-shirts that are on the website to help support it, but also then help create something special in your city that helps people realize indie authors are there. They have written tons of millions of books. They have written a lot of great books. And it's a great way to also promote yourself, because if you buy the t-shirt that says, I have written 10 books or 5 books or 1 book or whatever, people are going, hey, I didn't know that. Tell me about it. What did you write? So it's a great marketing tool. It helps the nonprofit create the event. and cover the expenses because it's 25 grand for that event. And it's going to be a fun time for everybody who attends. To learn more about that, you can go to authors.dearindy.org. And that's authors.dearindy.org. Okay, so that's it for the show. I thank you very much for keep sending in the questions. You can send them again to bourgeoismedia@outlook.com. I'm sure you've seen them at the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions relating to publishing and marketing, please feel free to send it to me and we will address it in one of our shows. Thank you and take care.
Authors, do you know the true cost of being published? In the Author's Revolution workbook, Alan Bourgeois gives you hands-on tools to use and to understand the true cost of being published. He will also give you information about low-cost or free programs that are designed to help you market your book. Alan Bourgeois has been helping hundreds of authors since 2011, educating them on how to better market and sell their books. Buy the Author's Revolution workbook exclusively at indielector.store